After my husband's brother passed away, his widow, Sarah, began to complain about her dire financial situation. Claude, my husband, moved by her stories of being harassed by local troublemakers, started handing over his entire salary to her. Before long, he was sleeping in her room every night, bringing his own bedding with him. Not long after, Sarah became pregnant. Claude's parents suggested that he marry her to continue the family lineage. He came to me with a request to become his second wife. Sarah is fragile, he said. Without an official status, there will be gossip. Don't worry, the divorce will be just a formality. The family still needs you. I quietly agreed. Everyone praised me for being selfless and understanding. But they didn't know, I had already secured a place to return to the city. I had been dreaming of this divorce for a long time. Clutching my university acceptance letter, I was walking home. Before I could figure out how to share the news, Claude grabbed my hand excitedly. Greer, the Thorne family is going to have an heir. I was stunned. Instinctively, I touched my stomach. Claude and I hadn't been intimate in months, especially not since Sarah moved into our home. Claude laughed. Not you. It's Sarah who's pregnant. Sarah twirled a strand of hair, feigning shyness. Greer, I didn't expect to beat you to it. I slipped the letter into my pocket and looked at them with a frown. Sarah, whose child is it? Your husband died more than 2 months ago. That timing seems odd. Their expressions darkened immediately. My in-laws accused me of being malicious, while Claude called me crude. The child is my brother's. Sarah just found out late. Don't jump to conclusions. If this gets out, how will she face the world? Claude scolded. I said nothing, but I didn't believe a word. Claude had been spending his nights in her room under the pretense that she was afraid of sleeping alone. At dinner, his parents brought up the subject again. Now that our son is gone and Sarah is expecting, it will be hard for her to raise the child alone. We thought. Maybe Claude could take responsibility for both families. Nothing official, just for appearances. So the child won't grow up fatherless and be ridiculed. I looked at Claude and Sarah. Greer, let's get the divorce certificate, he said calmly. Sarah is delicate. Without a proper status, people will talk. It's just paperwork. My heart is still with you. The family still needs you. I set down my utensils and nodded. Everyone lit up with joy. They poured me a small bowl of soup and gave Sarah a whole piece of chicken. Sarah needs to eat well for the baby, Claude remarked. Just try the soup, Greer. They were feeding Sarah with the money I worked hard for, while I got scraps. That's when I knew I didn't want to be part of this family any longer. The city and university lay ahead. The next morning, Claude cheerfully took me to file for divorce. The breeze was warm on my face, but my heart felt like ice. I had believed that education would teach me to understand people and that Claude's simple nature meant reliability. I had been terribly wrong. He hummed as we walked. Even going uphill, he energetically pushed the cart. Greer, you're so smart. I admire you more and more. I'll support your studies. We'll move to the city together. I know it's your dream. I listened in silence, tears brimming in my eyes. But they weren't from sorrow, they were from hope. I had my acceptance letter. I could leave without him. Why are you crying? He asked, surprised. It's just a fake divorce. It's all for the baby. Don't take it so personally. I turned away and walked ahead. As soon as the divorce was finalized, Claude immediately inquired about the marriage procedures. Don't take it the wrong way, he mumbled. I'm just worried Sarah won't be able to get around with a big belly later. I nodded and left him there. I bought a ticket back to the city. There was a train in 10 days at 9 a.m. Miss it, and I'd have to wait 2 more weeks. I couldn't hold back my tears of joy. After 6 long years in the countryside, I was finally going to university. Home was finally within reach. With no buses running that afternoon, I had to walk home. My feet were blistered and aching. I longed for warm water to soak them, but as I approached the house, I heard laughter from inside, Claude and Sarah. Oh, stop. The baby isn't even stable yet, Sarah teased coyly. Claude kept pressing, undeterred. You're so impatient. It's only been 2 months. What will you do if you can't wait 8 more? Isn't there a young one in your room you can turn to? I clenched my fists. Every word was crystal clear. What young one? You're the only one for me, Claude murmured. Now that you're carrying my baby, don't say such silly things. We'll be a real family soon, one that others will respect. The talk about me taking care of 2 families was just to deal with Greer, wasn't it? After all, she earns £10 every day. We can't let our child live a hard life when it's born. By the way, how did your exam go? I gave up my chance at university for you. Sarah giggled. I wrote down everything you taught me on the test paper. Claude snorted, his words dripping with undisguised pride. I heard this exam is for worker peasant soldier students. That requires a recommendation, you know. That fool Greer still thinks it's a regular university entrance exam, staying up till midnight every night to study. She's an outsider. Even if she studies her brains out, she won't get a recommendation spot. When the time comes, you'll be the one with the best scores on the recommendation list. Once you get into university, you can bring me to the city with you and let her stay home to look after my parents. Now that she's married into the Thorne family, she better not think about leaving for the rest of her life. The more I listened, the colder my heart grew. So this was how the person sleeping next to me had been scheming against me. No wonder he said he'd helped tutor me, but gave up halfway through. Was it because he went to tutor his sister-in-law Sarah instead? But his calculations were wrong. This year's admissions were through regular A-levels, not the recommended worker peasant soldier student program. I had already secured the only spot to return to the city when it was time to move to the village. I couldn't bear to let my younger sister come out to suffer, so I decided to go myself. My parents went door to door, calling in favors to send me to this place where the conditions were relatively less harsh. But as a newcomer who didn't know how to do farm work, I still made quite a few blunders while planting rice seedlings. I lost my footing and sat right down in the paddy field. The mud all over my bottom making people roar with laughter. That time, Claude tied his jacket around my waist. What are you laughing at? Weren't you born and raised by parents too? Did your mother tell you to stare at a lady's bottom? Later, I was assigned to work at the pig farm. Coming home from the night shift always gave me an uneasy feeling. Sure enough, on a rainy night, 2 men covered my mouth and dragged me into an alley. Thunder and lightning flashed across the sky, the noisy rain drowning out my cries for help. Wow, city girls are different all right. Look at those arms, rough but still fair and tender. I struggled and screamed in terror. Just as someone grabbed my ankle, Claude happened to ride by on his bicycle and saved me. One rescue was enough to spark good feelings. But after the second time he came to my aid, I was overwhelmed with gratitude. Later, as our affections grew, Claude naturally proposed to me. We agreed to prepare for university entrance exams together. He was quick-witted, grasping concepts instantly. Later he even reacted faster than me, who had a foundation in studies. But as we studied, he somehow ended up in Sarah's bed. The old house had thin walls, and the noises from next door made me sick to my stomach. I hid my train ticket carefully, eagerly anticipating the day of departure. But before that, the Thorne family would have to face their just deserts. Early the next morning, I went to see Mr. Cutler, the production team leader. Abner was a friend of my father's, and it was thanks to his connections that we were able to move to this village when we were sent to the countryside. I told him about my university acceptance and the sordid affair between Claude and his sister-in-law. What? Mr. Cutler was furious when he heard about the two-timing situation. We're all honest country folk here. How could Claude do such a thing? It's absolutely shameless. No wonder I've been seeing him and Sarah gallivanting about together lately. Don't worry, my dear. With me around, no one will interfere with your return to the city. I nodded and proposed an idea. Mr. Cutler agreed without hesitation and went to their house that very afternoon. The 2 lovebirds, who had been cuddling, quickly separated when they saw Mr. Cutler arrive. Mr. Cutler, what brings you here? Claude asked. Mr. Cutler exchanged a subtle glance with me, grinning from ear to ear. Why, I'm here to bring you good news, of course. Your family is about to have a university student. Their eyes lit up, and if Mr. Cutler hadn't been there, they probably would have kissed to celebrate. Claude's parents were overjoyed as well. Only I, feigning excitement, grabbed Mr. Cutler and asked loudly, "Mr. Cutler, is it me?" The Thorns held their breath, watching Mr. Cutler intently. Mr. Cutler looked at me with feigned reluctance and said nothing, but it was enough for the Thorns to draw their own conclusions. Claude pushed me aside. "Mr. Cutler, if it's not Greer, then it must be me or Sarah, right?" Mr. Cutler smiled without saying a word, but it was enough to cause a misunderstanding. I pretended to be disappointed while the Thorns were beaming with joy. After Mr. Cutler left, the couple embraced, disregarding everything else. "This is wonderful. We can really move to the city now. Our child will be born a city dweller." I frowned and asked, "Whose child are you talking about?" The family of four exchanged glances, no longer bothering to pretend. Claude shamelessly put his arm around Sarah's waist. "Sarah's child is my child. Is there a problem with that? Now that the university matter is settled, we're going to get our marriage certificate right away. You can stay at home and take good care of my parents." I laughed coldly inside, but put on a face of disbelief. Wasn't it agreed that we'd go to the city together? How has it become you and Sarah now? "Claude, I'm your wife." Sarah laughed, deliberately snuggling into Claude's arms in a coquettish manner. "Is that so? But Claude loves me now." "Oh, Greer, you should just accept your fate, or you could work hard and take the exams again next year when they're reinstated, though I'm not sure if your brain is up to it." I pretended to be flushed with anger, while the two of them happily went off to get their marriage certificate that very day. Before they left, I overheard Claude holding Sarah's hand, saying, "Mr. Cutler said the university student isn't Greer, so it must be you. Sarah, you've done us proud, getting into university just like that. Darling, we'll have a good life in the city from now on." Sarah blushed and twisted away shyly. "We're not married yet. Who are you calling, darling?" I felt physically ill watching this. Let them get married. It's best if two awful, stupid people are locked together. The in-laws spread the news of the Thorn family having a university student all over the village. Even splurging on meat to celebrate, Claude and Sarah drank from intertwined glasses right in front of me. Sarah glanced at me and said with a smirk, "Claude, our family of three will surely have better and better days ahead." Claude was even more shameless, planting a kiss on Sarah's cheek without hesitation. They both looked at me. "If you behave, there might still be a place for you in this family. But if you don't blame me for not acknowledging you when I make it big." I pinched my thigh hard, my eyes reddening from the pain. I pretended to look dejected, as if I was swallowing my anger. "I have no choice but to obey. You're my only hope now." Claude smiled smugly, and seeing this, I added more fuel to the fire. "The Thorns are the first family to have a university student. You can walk with your head held high in the village from now on. Claude, I'll be good. Just don't abandon me, all right?" Claude ignored me and exchanged glances with the other three, his eyes gleaming. He suddenly slapped his thigh. "That's right. No more mucking out the stables today. That kind of dirty, tiring work isn't for a university student." "So what do you want to do?" I asked, following up. Sarah thought for a moment before excitedly tugging on Claude's arm. "Let's go check out the granary. That's where the real money is." The Thorn family agreed unanimously and headed straight for the granary after dinner. I followed quietly behind, watching as Claude brazenly took a seat at the guard post. Moments later, the original guard arrived. "Claude?" he asked. "Why aren't you mucking out the stables? What are you doing here?" Claude frowned at him, gesturing dismissively. "Emmett, from today on, you'll be mucking out the stables." Emmett Quinn laughed in disbelief, swaggering up to Claude. "Have you lost your mind, mate?" "Who are you calling mate?" Claude puffed out his chest and stood up, giving Emmett a shove. "If you weren't the village head son, you wouldn't dare sit here guarding the granary. Listen here, the Thorn family's got a university student now. Do you know what that means? A place this important should be watched by a university student. Emmett nearly stumbled from the push and raised his fist, charging forward. But Sarah, heavily pregnant, rushed between them. "Go on, hit me. I dare you," she shouted. "You think you can strike the village's only university student? Your father will lose his position as the village head in a heartbeat if you do." Hearing this, Emmett reluctantly lowered his fist. His face flushed with anger. "Who says your family's got a university student?" Claude and Sarah exchanged smiles, noses in the air. Claude's parents chuckled. "Why? The production team leader, of course." "Emmett, there's no use arguing. Blame your own thick head for not getting into university." Emmett spat on the ground in frustration. "You lot just wait," he snarled before storming off towards his house. I stepped forward, worried. What if he's gone to tell the village head? This time, Claude scoffed without any prompting from me. "The village head? He's nothing." I lowered my gaze, hiding my disgust. Those who knew might think someone in their family had got into university. Those who didn't might think the Thorns had been elevated to sainthood. Let them make a scene. The bigger the commotion, the less welcome the Thorns would be in the village afterwards. 10 minutes later, Emmett arrived with the village head and a bustling crowd of villagers. "Claude, just because your family has a university student doesn't mean you can cause such a ruckus," Mr. Quinn pointed at the full granary, fuming. "I may be the village head, but I've overseen this granary for years without a single mistake. I've never taken a penny from anyone. What right do you have to push my son out?" Claude sat motionless, his crossed leg bouncing incessantly. "Just because our family has a university student, Emmett is only sitting here because he's your son. Look at how clueless he is. If it weren't for having such a good father, he'd probably struggle to even find a wife." This statement immediately enraged both Emmett and Mr. Quinn. "Claude Thorne, are you two old folks just going to sit there and let him stir up trouble?" Claude's parents had their noses in the air, not only failing to intervene, but actually encouraging his bravado. "Mr. Quinn, in the future when our family member goes to the city for university, who knows where they might be assigned as an official after graduation? It might not be wise to offend our family at this time." Mr. Quinn was furious, but other villagers held him back. "Let it go, Mr. Quinn. We can't afford to offend university students. A wise man knows when to back down." Mr. Quinn took a deep breath. "Fine, but what about the rest of your family? Get back to work." The Thorne family members all looked towards me. Sarah casually pointed. "You go." I deliberately asked, "What about the rest of you?" Sarah rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Naturally, we'll all stay here to watch over the grain." As soon as she said this, many people's expressions changed. Everyone was supposed to work together, but if the Thorns didn't work, the burden would fall on others. However, due to the difference in status, everyone was angry but dared not speak up. In just a few days, the Thorne family had offended quite a few people. I would be returning to the city in just 10 days. But in my view, this was far from enough. I wanted to ensure this family couldn't go to the city and would be unable to stay in the village as well. That evening, I deliberately added a generous amount of sand to the coarse bread. My in-laws took one bite and spat it out. "What kind of food is this? You're utterly useless," they exclaimed. I feigned a look of hurt and lowered my head. "We've run out of food. We only have a few ration book coupons left, and those need to be saved for university. There's only one spot for a university student, and the other one needs to find a job in the city, don't they? We should make do with what we have. I'm afraid our savings won't be enough." My in-laws exchanged a glance but remained silent. Claude, however, put down his fork with a grave expression. "She does have a point," he admitted. Seizing the moment, I pressed on. "My father knows a manager at the factory. He could help arrange a job, which would make life in the city much easier. But we'd probably need to offer a gift to make it happen." Claude's eyes lit up. "Really? Your family has such connections?" I nodded. "My sister got into the factory. I heard they gave a gift of £50 at the time. Typical city folk, always using their connections and bribes." Sarah remarked bitterly, but Claude was clearly intrigued. If it could really get us into the factory, it might be worth it. But where would we get that kind of money? His parents fell silent. The Thorns had always been a poor farming family. They couldn't scrape together even £10, let alone 50. After a long silence, Claude looked up at the house. Why don't we sell the house? Then we could all move to the city together. His parents exchanged another glance, hesitating. But this is our family home, his mother protested. Claude frowned. What kind of home is this? I'm going to put down roots in the city. We'll need money not just for the job, but for university too. You have to spend money to make money, trust me on this. I lowered my head to hide my smile. Oh, Claude. Poor, naive Claude. The university term starts in just 8 days, and you haven't even received an acceptance letter yet. The Thorn family began frantically trying to sell their house. They had offended quite a few people recently, and everyone couldn't wait for the Thorns to leave. Although they had the collective agreement, no one could afford to buy it. As time dragged on, the Thorns had no choice but to keep lowering the price. In the end, they sold their 3-bedroom house for just £60. After receiving the money, Claude suddenly realized the problem. We've sold the house, but where are we going to live? I timidly said we can't possibly move in with someone else, can we? His parents' cloudy eyes lit up. Why not? The village head's house is so big. Let's stay there. I was stunned by this family's shamelessness. They swaggered over to Mr. Quinn's house and made themselves at home on his sofa without invitation. By the time the Quinn family returned home for lunch, Claude's parents were already eating their food. Emmett was the first to react when he realized something was wrong. Claude Thorn, he shouted. Who said you could come to our house and eat our scones? Emmett snatched back the plate as Mr. Quinn hurried in behind him. Seeing the Thorns, he was furious. Thorn, don't you dare take advantage of us. Claude's parents chuckled and made themselves comfortable on the sofa. We've sold our house, so we're staying here for a bit. Once university starts, our Claude will go to the city. In 2 months at most, we'll be able to move to the city too. That's right. By then you'll be begging us to stay, but we won't even want to. Emmett's face turned red with anger. If you have nowhere to live, that's your own bloody fault. Get out. What does your lack of housing have to do with us? Claude and Sarah laughed. Sarah lay down on the Quinn sofa, cradling her pregnant belly. Claude brazenly declared. Who told you to have such a big house? It's an honor to host a university student, isn't it? Emmett was livid. He looked around wildly before grabbing a bowl and smashing it on the floor. Get out of our house now. Claude's face darkened as he stood up. He glared threateningly at Mr. Quinn, who had just entered. You don't want to be village head anymore, do you? Trust me, when I become an official, the first thing I'll do is sack you. Then the whole village won't be able to develop. You'll only have yourself to blame. At these words, Mr. Quinn was struck speechless. Mr. Quinn was too soft-hearted. The Thorns ended up staying at the village head's house while I was dragged off to Mr. Cutler's place to share a bed with his daughter. Vicky Cutler was just 2 years younger than me and, influenced by her father, was also studying hard. After some thought, I handed her my study notes. Here, take these. If you have any questions in the future, you can write to me. If I can't answer, I'll ask my teacher for you. I'll be waiting for you in the city. In 5 days, I would finally be able to leave this godforsaken place. They had already managed to offend nearly everyone in the village. I had hoped to quietly wait for school to start, but I didn't expect them to incur everyone's wrath again before departure. A few days later, at noon, everyone gathered at the granary door. Claude, are you even human? How could you tamper with our food? Bloody hell, I only realized when I started cooking that there's sand mixed in with the grain. It's too fine to pick out. Do you know you've ruined all our food? We have so many mouths to feed, and nearly half of our grain is sand now. Where's our food? Give us back our food. I watched them coldly, never imagining this family would stoop so low. At that moment, I couldn't help but feel relieved that they hadn't gotten into university. That would have been a real disaster. Claude didn't even blush or show any sign of being caught out. Instead, he irritably scratched his ear. What are you all yelling about? It's just a bit of food. You won't die from eating a little less. I knew you lot wouldn't want to donate food, so I came up with this idea. It's an honor for the village to have a university student. What's wrong with each family contributing some grain to support our education? The villagers shouted angrily. What does your university have to do with us? Give us back our food. You're already bullying people before even going to university. What'll happen if you actually become an official? If you keep causing trouble, we'll make sure you don't even get to university. Claude's face darkened. He looked up menacingly. What did you say? Just as everyone was about to continue speaking, he suddenly produced a sickle from somewhere and started swinging it around like a madman. Anyone who dares interfere with my family going to university, I'll kill your whole family. He charged forward, swinging the sickle recklessly, scaring the crowd into scattering. Claude shouted, "Come on then, come on. Who else has a problem?" Mr. Quinn, who had come along, let out a long sigh. He advised meaningfully, "Claude, your family may have produced a university student, but who that student is, we don't know yet. You've offended everyone in the village. I'm afraid life won't be easy for you in the future." Mr. Quinn was hinting at something, and I understood. The village head knew the truth but wanted to teach the Thorns a lesson. So he only said half of what he knew. The Thorns, however, sneered. "Mr. Quinn, you're getting on in years. Best mind your own business. Stop poking your nose where it doesn't belong." Mr. Quinn was so angry he was speechless. He simply waved his hand and left with everyone else. "You'll regret this." I frowned in disgust. How could I ever have fancied a man like this? But it's all right. Everything was about to end. The Thorns had sold their house and offended everyone in the village. There's no way their life would be easy from now on. That evening, I asked Claude for the £50. Claude clutched the money tightly, reluctant to let go. "If this money goes to waste, I'll have your life." Hearing this, I immediately let go of the money. "If you don't trust me that much, then forget it." My tactic of retreating to advance worked, and Claude relaxed. That night, I took the money and train ticket to the town. I also wrote 2 letters of complaint, sending one to the Women's Federation and one to the local council. Claude had an incestuous relationship with his sister-in-law, married into 2 families. And he violated collective interests. Let him wait for his reform through labor. The Thorns had grown accustomed to their mischievous ways, believing no one could truly stop them. They began brazenly stealing food and claiming extra rations from public stores. Claude was still excitedly making plans. "Once Greer's father arranges the job, I'll go straight to the factory. Sarah will start university, and our family will be living the good life in no time." Mr. and Mrs. Thorne's eyes gleamed with anticipation. "We must visit the cemetery before we leave. Surely our ancestors are watching over us from beyond." Sarah gently touched her belly, a smile playing on her lips. But as she continued smiling, she suddenly realized something was amiss. She tapped Claude's arm. "Shouldn't the acceptance letter have arrived by now? Term's about to start." Claude furrowed his brow. "I'll ask Mr. Cutler about it later." Sarah happily agreed. As the couple set off, Mr. Thorne celebrated noisily along the way. Neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion, but kept their distance, their faces etched with disgust. "Mr. Cutler, has our acceptance letter been delivered to your house?" "We haven't received anything yet," Claude called out. "Please give it to us quickly. We're about to leave for university." Thinking of recent events, Mr. Cutler couldn't help but sneer. "You're a funny one, lad. Why would I have your acceptance letters?" Claude and Sarah's smiles froze on their faces. The villagers who had been watching from afar drew closer. "What's going on? No acceptance letters? Don't tell me they didn't get in. I hope they didn't. Blimey, I've had enough of them." Claude's heart skipped a beat, his voice rising involuntarily. "Off with you. Stop talking rubbish. Mr. Cutler, didn't you say our family produced a university student?" The village head, Mr. Quinn, nodded. "Indeed you did. How come I've heard other villages have students starting term, but you haven't even received your acceptance letters? Claude and Sarah exchanged a glance, their ears suddenly burning hot and hearts pounding with uncertainty. Mr. and Mrs. Thorne came running over. "What's gone wrong?" they asked anxiously. "Mr. Cutler, wasn't it you who told us the news?" Claude questioned. Cutler slapped his thigh innocently. "The news I heard was exactly that, no mistake. Where's that postman from the post office? We need to find him and ask." The Thorne family rushed to search, quickly cornering the postman at the edge of the village. Claude, both anxious and flustered, grabbed the postman's bicycle and shouted, "Where's my university acceptance letter?" The postman frowned. "What are you on about?" Claude lost his patience and grabbed the postman's collar. "My university acceptance letter. Didn't you say someone from our family got into university? So where's the letter? Do you know how important that is? You couldn't afford to lose it even if we sold you." The postman looked stunned for a moment before suddenly realizing. He pushed Claude away. "I remember now. Someone from the Thorne family did get into university." Claude excitedly pushed Sarah forward. "Who? Was it our Sarah?" "It was someone called Greer Weathers. The acceptance letter was signed for 2 weeks ago. She's probably already started term by now." At these words, the Thorne family was stunned into silence. The onlookers whispered, "Ah, so it was the sent-down youth. Their sent-down youth is a university student, so why are they putting on airs?" Claude stammered in shock. "You're saying Greer Weathers got into university? Who recommended Greer for university? Why would you recommend an outsider?" The postman looked at him as if he were mad. "What do you mean recommended? She got in through her own efforts in the A-levels." Claude and Sarah exclaimed in unison, "A-levels? Wasn't it supposed to be recommendations this year?" The postman's expression was complex. "You don't even understand how university admissions work, yet you want to go to university?" At these words, the crowd that had gathered burst into laughter. Mr. Thorne, still holding the gong that now felt like a hot potato, tried to save face. "Greer is part of our family too. The Thornes have produced a university student after all." Mrs. Thorne was the first to truly react. She slapped her thigh. "But that wretched Greer got her acceptance letter ages ago and didn't say a word. She even took our £50. Has she run off?" Claude stood frozen in shock, completely flustered. He gritted out a few words through clenched teeth. "Bloody hell, that wretch dared to trick me." Mr. Cutler deliberately said, "How is it a trick? Isn't Greer part of your Thorne family?" Sarah blurted out, "How is she part of the Thorne family?" Claude nudged Sarah, cutting off her words. "That wench, let's go. We're heading to the city right now to settle accounts with her." They turned to leave but were stopped by several people wearing armbands approaching from the distance. Who are Claude Thorne and Sarah Latham? The Thornes were in a foul mood, their words laced with anger. "What do you want?" Claude barked. "With that attitude, no wonder you could have an affair with your own sister-in-law," someone shouted. "Aren't you the one who's supposed to carry on 2 family lines?" Another accused. The group then turned their attention to Sarah's pregnant belly. "Is that child your dead husband's or Claude's?" At these words, the Thornes' faces turned pale. The villagers erupted in an uproar. "How could you do such a disgusting thing? You actually got together with your own sister-in-law? No wonder your family always bullied that sent-down youth, so this is what it was all about." Claude denied it without hesitation. "How dare you say that? What proof do you have?" "Without evidence, it's just slander. We live in a society governed by law now," the man with the armband spoke up. "There are also reports of you stealing food." This statement immediately sparked public outrage. "I can testify. This Claude is good for nothing, and the whole Thorne family is overbearing. They've stolen so much of our food lately. He and his sister-in-law are always hugging and kissing in front of us without any shame. That's right, he even drove away his sent-down youth wife and he says nothing's wrong. Who does he think he's fooling?" Claude and Sarah exchanged a glance, then stubbornly refused to admit anything. Sarah once again used her usual tactic, patting her belly as she said, "What are you trying to do? Bully a pregnant woman just because there are more of you? I dare you to try and touch me." The villagers clenched their fists in anger. "We can't hurt a pregnant woman, but the other three aren't pregnant. Let's get them all. It's time for payback." The villagers surged forward, and the men with armbands couldn't hold them back. After a flurry of punches and kicks, the other three Thorns were beaten to the ground, each with bruises all over their faces. Mrs. Thorne sat on the ground, covering her face and crying, "There's no justice. Aren't you going to do anything? Oh, this old woman is going to die." The men with armbands looked troubled. The law couldn't punish everyone. They couldn't arrest the whole village. In the end, after Mr. Quinn's mediation, the villagers only received a verbal warning while the foreign family was taken away. After arriving in the city, I went home first. Walking along the familiar streets, my steps quickened involuntarily. As I reached the front door, I found my heart racing with nervousness. I straightened my clothes before knocking. When my grandmother opened the door, I was so overwhelmed with emotion that tears welled up in my eyes. "Gran," I exclaimed. She stared at me for a long moment before hesitantly asking, "Is that you, Greer?" At her words, my parents and sister came running out of the house. "Mom, Dad," I cried. The whole family's eyes reddened as we embraced, weeping with joy. My sister threw herself into my arms, sobbing uncontrollably. "Sis, you're finally home. All these years, Mom and Dad have been trying everything to bring you back, but they couldn't find a way. I'm so sorry," she continued. "If you hadn't been so worried about me suffering, it might have been me who was sent away instead." I was touched by my sister's understanding, and shared the good news of my university acceptance with everyone. My parents were overjoyed, their smiles stretching from ear to ear. After a moment's hesitation, I told them about my divorce. I had thought they might be ashamed of me, but to my surprise, they were only concerned about whether I had suffered alone in the village. I told them about Claude's affair with his sister-in-law and how he had tried to juggle two families. My parents were immediately outraged. "Good riddance to that family. Even if you're divorced, we can still support you," they declared. "Your room has always been kept for you. You can come home on weekends when you're off from uni," they added. I nodded gratefully, and the next day, the whole family accompanied me to the university gates. I was studying medicine. From the first day of classes, I was incredibly busy. In the dormitory, there were several other students who had also returned from the countryside. We would often find ourselves talking from dusk till dawn without realizing it. "Greer, we haven't heard about your time in the countryside yet. Was it fun there?" one of them asked. After a moment's hesitation, I nodded. The Thorne family was ordinary, but the scenery and conditions there were truly lovely. When I wasn't in class, I joined the arts troupe, occasionally performing in group activities. Without the toxic atmosphere of the Thorne family, I found joy in everything I did. But this blissful period only lasted for 2 weeks. Representatives from the Women's Federation and the production team came looking for me. "Are you Greer Weathers, the one who wrote the complaint letter?" I nodded, feeling a bit excited inside. "Is Claude Thorne going to be punished?" The man paused, then said, "Come with me and you'll find out." I was taken to the police station where I saw the Thorne family all locked up. The 4 of them were handcuffed with bruised faces when they saw me. They started cursing angrily. "Greer Weathers. You bloody liar, you've ruined our whole family. Officer, she took £50 from us, that's £50. Make her give it back, then we can repay the money for the stolen grain." The policeman glanced at me. "Did you take it?" I shrugged, looking indignant. I was always bullied at the Thorns. Even if they had money, why would they give it to me? "If you say I took it, fine, show me the evidence." Claude gaped at me. "You little witch, I'll kill you." He tried to lunge at me but was kicked to the ground first. The officer scolded him harshly. "Without evidence, that's slander. Your whole family is morally corrupt, and now you're swearing. What more do you have to say for yourself?" I seized the opportunity to speak up. "It doesn't matter if he denies cheating with his sister-in-law, We can check at the register office, and there should be plenty of witnesses in the village. I coldly looked at the stunned Thorne family. If they had been nicer to the villagers, maybe some would have helped cover for them. But now they could forget about it. Sure enough, the officer hesitated, then nodded. Right, the village head Gilbert Quinn said. He personally overheard Claude and Sarah having an affair at home. When Sarah heard this, her face went pale. She glanced around, then burst into tears. Officer, I admit I married Claude, but I was forced. That beast Claude, he raped me. I had no choice but to marry him when I got pregnant. At these words, Claude's parents and Claude himself were shocked and furious, their faces contorting. Mrs. Thorne scrambled up and, when no one was looking, slapped Sarah hard across the face. You worthless wretch. How dare you talk such nonsense and slander my son? You weren't saying this when you were seducing him, were you? Weren't you quite willing then? Sarah dramatically fell to the ground, playing the victim. Officer, you've seen it yourself. I had no say in a family like this. Claude is a hooligan. You must charge him with that crime. Mrs. Thorne tried to hit her again, but was dragged away by 2 officers. Claude stared blankly at Sarah. Bent at me, looking down at him coldly. His lips quivered. Greer. I glared at him coldly, feeling nothing but disgust. Officer, now that we have sufficient evidence, can we press charges? I asked. The policeman nodded. We called you here to see the results of your report. Claude's eyes reddened. We were husband and wife. How could you report me? He pleaded. Greer, let's remarry. You can go to university and I'll work in the city. I'll support your studies, all right? As the officer stepped out, I leaned close to Claude's ear. 50 lb will last me quite a while. Why would I need you? I whispered. Claude froze, then glared at me through gritted teeth. Officer, she admitted it. She took my £50, he shouted. I looked at him as if he were an idiot, smiling silently. This was the path the Thornes had chosen for themselves. They'd have to see it through to the bitter end. The Thornes had stolen too much grain. Only money could plug this hole and keep them out of prison. But they'd already squandered most of it. Even if they sold everything they owned, it would only be enough to keep Claude's parents out of jail. Sarah had reported Claude for rape, claiming victim status. With the baby in her belly as evidence, Claude was immediately convicted as a hooligan. While Claude went to prison, the other 3 were released. Claude's parents were furious and wanted to lash out, but their old bones were no match for Sarah, who pushed them to the ground. You useless lot, get as far away from me as you can, Sarah yelled, slapping her bottom as she left them in the dust. Claude's parents slunk back to the village, tails between their legs, but they had nowhere to go. Their old house was already occupied, and they were chased away when they tried to return. This elderly couple, both over 50, became social pariahs, bullied wherever they went. Get lost. What were you thinking when you were throwing your weight around before? People would shout. When will you old fools die? Get away from here. Don't make trouble for yourself. As for me, I encountered all sorts of people at university, including quite a few suitors, but I only wanted to devote myself to my medical studies, pressing forward with singular focus.